Thank you, Katie. Great. I'm Sandra Chen Lau. I'm the board president of Pasadena Area Community College District Area 1. I represent La Cañada and West Pasadena. I'm really happy to be moderating this roundtable tonight. I'll do a popcorn. Caroline?
I am Caroline Anderson. I am on the La Cañada Unified School District Board. I was elected in 2022. Let me see who is next. Susan Kane.
Hi, Susan Kane. I'm a former member of the school board here in Pasadena Unified.
A recovering elected.
Oh, right. I'll go to Jeanette.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Mann. I am a former member of the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees. I served for 32 years, and now I'm on the Commission for Children and Families. Supervisor Barger was kind enough to appoint me, and I really enjoyed working with her on this. Oh, and I'm to popcorn, but I can't see anybody. Who's else is here?
How about we go to Patrice?
Patrice. Okay.
Hi, I'm Patrice Marshall McKenzie, candidate for Pasadena Unified School District Board of Education, District 5. I will popcorn to Jackie Robinson Baisley.
I think Jackie is not here yet, so maybe we go next to Jarma.
Hi, my name is Jarma Velasquez, and I am a Pasadena Unified School District Board candidate. And let's go to Tina.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Tina Fredericks from Pasadena Unified School Board. I was elected in 2020, and I'm very privileged to be among all these wonderful women. And I will popcorn to, who hasn't gone yet? Jen Tao.
You're on mute, Jen.
Sorry. I'm Zen. I am running for city treasurer for the city of South Pasadena. So just joining on to get some advice and listen. Oh, I don't know how this popcorn works. Let's see, who else do I see on my screen? Octavia?
Sure. Hi, my name is Octavia Thuss, and I'm a candidate for school board here in La Cañada Unified School District. How about Savannah? Has Savannah spoken?
No.
Hi there, I'm Savannah Moore. I'm a field deputy for Supervisor Kathryn Barger in her Pasadena field office.
Terrific. Sue, you're next.
Hi, my name is Sue Choi from La Cañada, and I'm not currently running for any positions, but maybe in the future there might be some interest.
Terrific. And then we have Jennifer.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer Tebow. I also am not running for any offices, but I am board chair of Planned Parenthood Advocates, which is an endorsing organization and a political advocacy organization. And so I'm very interested in politics, and I'm excited to be with all of these esteemed ladies running for office or serving in political office. And someone new just popped in, Jackie Robinson.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Robinson. I'm the former council member and vice mayor for the city of Pasadena. I'm also a member and past president of the Greater Pasadena Area chapter. Thanks for being here this evening.
Diane, we're saving you.
I'm not running for anything. I'm here supporting everybody, and especially our terrific women candidates. And we just had a fabulous event for Jarma last night at our house. So those of you who are supporting her, thank you very much.
And then we have Katie, who's so wonderful in coordinating this, and she's our technical advisor, and she's the president of NWPC. Katie Clark.
Hi guys, I am Katie Clark. As Sandra mentioned, I'm the chair of our local Greater Pasadena Area Caucus. I'm also an elected member of the Altadena Library District Board of Trustees, an independent special district, and just started my second term on that body.
So terrific. And it's my pleasure to introduce Supervisor Kathryn Barger, who needs no introduction. We all say that all politics are local, and we are, elected women in local offices, and many times we are the ones in the trenches, working for our communities on a daily basis. And certainly Supervisor Barger has been doing that for the past decades, first as deputy for Supervisor Antonovich, but now elected in her own right as supervisor for District 5. So without further ado, Supervisor Barger.
Thank you, Sandra. And I just want to take a moment, Jennifer, thank you for everything you're doing with Planned Parenthood. Obviously, right now, we are really focused on all the amazing things you are doing. We've got a motion tomorrow at the board to address the issue of reproductive rights. And I just really am grateful to you and the entire board and all of Planned Parenthood for what you are doing. It's now more important than ever. So thank you for using your voice. We appreciate you. And I think I can collectively speak for all of us when I say that. But first of all, yeah, I love the fact, and by the way, not being elected, I think we would all agree that you don't have to be an elected to make a difference. But being an elected, and I love the fact we've got school board member, candidates here, because I think with COVID, it's really shed a light on just how important school boards are and how important it is to get qualified candidates on the boards. And so thank you all for running. I tell people it's not for the faint at heart, but when you run for the right reason, and that is truly public service, there's no more gratifying position than being an elected that can really make a difference in people's lives. And I'm in my car right now because I don't know if you heard, but I was up in the Antelope Valley, working on foster care issues. For me, that is my passion, is truly when you look at LA County, the most vulnerable individuals are in need, and we provide the services to them. So I thank you all for running. As women, we juggle. It's not just about running for office, it's about being a wife, if you've got a full-time job, you still have to balance it all. And it's a juggling act, but women do it well, and we do it effectively. And I think that's why we are effective leaders as we run and really take over offices. We have 5 LA County supervisors, all women, first time in history. And that just tells you how far we've come. But when I look at LA City and the fact that I think they now have 3, one is appointed out of 15, we still have a long way to go. But the National Women's Political Caucus, for me, has been inspirational, but it's also been vital in their support when I first ran. Having women, not of like mind, but of mind to support other women to get into office, whether it be water board, school board, city council, Senate, assembly, Congress, supervisor. This group really does empower and provide the support to really thrust you into a better position as a candidate. And what I tell people, and this is just my own suggestion, and Susan, you've run, and I'd say you're a recovering elected, but I think one of the things that I found when I ran is that everybody has an opinion and tells you what they think you should do. And Sheila Kuehl gave me great advice, and I'm so grateful for the advice she gave me. She said to me, Kathryn, get 5 people you trust, and they're going to be your advisors. Everyone else is going to tell you what you're doing wrong, but listen to those 5, because if you start listening to everybody telling you what you should do or who you should be, you will no longer be a viable candidate because you will not be focused and you will not have a message. And she was absolutely right. And I am so grateful for that because I was able to be who I am. And I tell people what you see is what you get, warts and all. But I think people want to know that. They want to know, who are you? What are you going to do for me? Don't tear apart your opponents. Tell me what you are going to do to make a difference. And we all have that message. Otherwise, you wouldn't be running. Patrice, you wouldn't be running for school board unless you had a heart for dealing with really the schools and making a difference in our communities. That resonates with the people. And as women, especially, we are able to send that message in a way that really does connect with people. And my advice to all candidates is to be true to who you are. And as ugly as politics has gotten, I really am all about not tearing down your opponent, but talking about who you are. I ran in a seat that had not been open for 36 years. And I worked for someone who was entrenched in local politics, but I was not him. I am me. And I had to explain who I am. And, you know, one of the areas actually, Jennifer, was Planned Parenthood. My former boss was, and still is, pro-life. I'm very much pro-choice, always have been, always will be. And I had to explain, you know, who I am versus who he is, because I am not him. I am my own person. And so it was really about getting out there and connecting with the people and telling people who I am. But I ran against all men. I was the only woman running for this office. And it could have been a curse and it could have been a blessing. I used it to my advantage to say, here is why I am the right person. And it wasn't about the experience of just the county. It was about looking at things, especially with the people experiencing homelessness, you know, foster care. Women attack problems in a different way. And I would argue we do it in a way that is very holistic, very compassionate. Not to say I'm not bashing men, but women do view issues far differently and they attack problems in a different manner. And that is what resonated with the voters. And that's really what I think, and I'm confident, brought me across the finish line and has really allowed me to get elected for the second term. So I would encourage you all to stay true to who you are, get a message out there about what you want to do to make a difference and why you're running, and use this time to really educate the voters about why it's important for them to use their voice to vote. And we've got to get out people to vote, because even though our numbers were high this last time, voting is still low. And so it's really about exciting the base and getting them out to vote. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you all have. But I just thank you for running for office. I really, it means a lot. I know Sandra can say the same thing, because you know when you run, you put your life on hold, but you can't, because there's still, you know, kids to feed, you know, houses to run, and women do it well. We juggle it all.
Thank you so much for that. And certainly, you know, you have been an inspiration and role model for many women who are juggling both a job and a career and also family. Any questions for Supervisor Barger? I know that, how are you on time, Supervisor?
I'm sitting on the side of the road. So I'm, you know, unless the CHP arrests me, I'm fine.
Okay, yeah. Good. Questions, not all at once. I have a question for you, Supervisor Barger. When you get a lot of requests, okay, Kathryn, okay, yes. Kathryn, you get a lot of requests for endorsements, right? So especially when it comes to local elections, what do you, as an elected official now, look for in a candidate who you would endorse?
So that is a really good question. And, you know, I don't know some of you that are running, and I would love to get to know you. I am very, believe it or not, apolitical when it comes to political parties. So I don't care what party you're with. I could care less. I want to know what you are going to do and why you are running. And if you are running because you believe that the schools need people that are going to be a voice for parents, I mean, I think COVID shed light on the need for parents to have someone advocating on behalf of the students. I just want to know who you are and what your plan is and where you want to make a difference. Endorsements can be double-edged sword. Don't think that endorsements alone are going to make or break you, because quite frankly, there have been candidates that have gotten the endorsements of people in every corner and they've lost, because people want to know what you're going to do. It's great that you've got the support of, X, Y, and Z. But for me personally, I just look at the person and want to know more about them. It gets complicated. And this is where I'm just going to tell you all, I am all about loyalty. I believe that that's something that's missing in politics, especially today. I'm not going to look at what have you done for me lately. I'm all about, if I've got a relationship with someone and know them and know what they're capable of, I'm going to stay true to that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to meet with someone else who's running against them, because I want to know all the candidates and understand who they are. And whoever wins, I am always committed to working with them, whether I endorse them or not, because it is about doing what's right for your constituency. But that's kind of what I look at. Look at Sandra. I don't look at, people will check a box, your political party. I could care less. I want to know why you're running and what your plans are once you get in office, and how we can work together. And that's the other area that's important, is working together, collaborating.
Other questions? Tina?
Hi, thank you so much, Supervisor Barger. I get this, so I'm on school boards, I'm very local. Do you feel like you're not as in touch with your constituency because you're everywhere and you got so much on your plate? And how do you stay connected and in touch with various demographics of your constituency?
By doing things like this, I am all over the place, but I like to connect. So my biggest problem is saying no. I don't say no a lot. Because that's part of my job. And things like this are more important to me than a black tie fundraiser for fill in the blank. So I stay connected with my constituency. That's why I was up in Palmdale today. I could have sent staff up to do it, but I wanted to be there to talk to the DCFS workers, to talk to the people that are from the nonprofit, and really get to understand it. And even on weekends, I'll go up to the Antelope Valley for a seminar. That's how you stay connected. But it's time management, which, again, not to bash men, but women are really good at time management because we've made that our way of life, right? But that's how I do it, Tina. I mean, I'm all over the place, but that's what I signed up for, and that's actually what I love to do. I love meeting people.
We have one more question, and your Savannah is letting me know you do have a hard stop. So we have one more question, and Jackie, over to you.
Sure, thank you. Hi, Supervisor Barger. I was wondering if you could answer for candidates. How do you select who you choose to publicly endorse? I work with female candidates of color right now and other candidates, and I always get the question, well, do you think Supervisor Barger or Assembly Member whoever will endorse me? Can you explain that process?
So Sandra asked that too, and here's what I would say, Jackie. It's not a perfect science for me. I mean, we have like a form that's filled out, but I don't even like filling out forms. I honestly am about the person. And so I encourage anyone to reach out to me. If I don't know you, I want to get to know you. Like Patrice, I don't really know you, but I'd like to get to know you. And endorsements, I'll even stay neutral in some races. And because at the end of the day, it's about if I don't feel comfortable endorsing either candidate, not because I don't like them, but because I like both. And I don't know that it's a very it's a hard needle, or it's a hard for me to thread, because I want a qualified person. But if I don't know you, I've got to get to know you. And so, you know, Jackie, I mean, obviously I know you by reputation, which is good. And so I know what you've done. I know what you can do. But if you've got candidates that you feel strongly about that you want me to meet, don't assume that I'm not going to endorse. I'd love to meet them and get to know them. I'm really organic, you guys. I mean, I tell people this, what you see is what you get. I'm not, I honestly go with my gut. And if I like you, I know I like you. And I want to work with local officials because I feel like there's a disconnect between even local school boards and the county. And I want to develop better relationships because mental health, we provide the mental health, but you all have the kids that are in incredible need for it. We need to have more collaboration. I was talking with Jackie Goldberg with LA Unified School District today, and she wants to do better coordination with LA Unified in mental health. And we're doing it at Pasadena Unified right now. I mean, we need a better job, but we need to coordinate and communicate.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. We know that we can count on you when it comes to, you know, county services, serving children and women. And I know that you've got a homelessness plan that you want to execute. And so however we can be helpful in working with your office, you know, we know that it's a two-way street, and you have been very open in communicating with, you know, local electeds. And we hope that we can continue to have that relationship with you and your wonderful staff. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Sandra, for inviting me. But to all you candidates, reach out. I mean, either my endorsement can either help you or hurt you, depending upon who voted for me. So keep that in mind too. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Be safe. And again, thank you, Jennifer. Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure that leads us to a lot of questions too. And this roundtable, it's called a roundtable, even though we're on Zoom, is because there's so much wealth of knowledge and experience just among the 17 of us. And let me just start by introducing two more participants who have joined us. Valente needs no introduction, but please, Valente, go. 30 seconds you have.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. And as Sandra knows, I'm currently Board of Juvenile Hearings Commissioner. And so when she said mental health, my ears went up because my doctorate is in psychology, and that is what I'm dealing with incarcerated youth, trying to help them to reduce their risk to reoffend once they are back in the community. But with that being said, thank you guys, and I'm really glad that I was able to catch her before, to hear what she had to say before she left. Thanks, Sandra.
Great. And then we have Tony Jones. Maybe Tony stepped away for a second. Well, thank you again for being here. And I know there's quite a bit of questions that we received during this roundtable or before this roundtable. One of the questions that I think is on many of the candidates' minds, and certainly those of us who ran for office, is how much money do I need to raise? And I'm just gonna say, who wants to take that question in answering that question? How much money do I need to raise for my race?
I'm trying to think of a simple answer.
Yeah.
There's no simple answer. How much money you need to raise, I think largely depends on the size of the race that you're running, how big your electorate is that you need to reach, and how willing you are to put the time into making call time fundraising calls. I'm working with several candidates right now, and one of the baseline questions I like to ask candidates before I even take them on or advise them as they're deciding whether or not to run is that, you know, if everyone that has promised you the world in terms of fundraising for you, door knocking, phone banking, etc., if no one does anything they promised, do you still want to run? Because it's all going to fall back on you. And once you're on the ballot, you're on the ballot. So you might as well do the best you can. So I think it just depends on the size of your race and how willing you are to put in the work. And it's not easy, and no one's going to do it for you. So you need to make sure that you're willing to pick up the phone and make the ask. Because if you don't ask, you don't know the answer.
We have quite a few school board candidates on here. Caroline, when you ran for La Cañada School Board, how much money did you think you needed to raise, and how much did you end up raising?
So I was told about 10 to 15,000 would be the sweet spot to run in La Cañada for school board. I did not spend the most, and I had to raise over $30,000 to run my campaign in 2020. So that was a huge shocker. I am lucky that, as a few of the people here know, I'm not afraid to ask for money. So it was a lot of calling. And as Jackie said, you have to be comfortable with the ask. And if it's $100 or if it's a $20 or it's a $10,000, you got to ask, or else it's nothing.
You know, I like to add to that because I actually helped out a friend with his school board campaign. And as Caroline said, it was normally 15,000 is a sweet spot. But if you have a candidate who, like your opponent, who's willing to spend 30,000, then you really have to step up the game and then try give your best effort to kind of meet his fundraising opponent's fundraising goal to get out, to put out more advertisement, flyers, and things like that. So I think, yeah, like your opponent's fundraising budget, you kind of have to adjust to your opponent's.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with everything that was said. It's very district dependent, depends on how big an area that you need to sort of reach. But the reality is that it's in the tens of thousands of dollars, sort of regardless. And the point I wanted to make was, what I didn't say is that I'm chair of the PAC, the Political Action Committee of NWPC here in Pasadena. And this is one of the things that we look at when we're thinking about endorsements is in terms of a viability of a candidate. Do they have a realistic understanding, frankly, of how much money it takes to run and what they're going to have to do? Because it's not unusual to have candidates come and say, well, I'm going to raise $1,000 or $5,000. And that's a red flag that really either you haven't done your homework, you're not committed to this, or you haven't, you're not realistic or sort of in it to win it. And so it is really worth sort of knowing, talking, having a good understanding of what it takes, looking at previous campaigns, that kind of thing, as a demonstration of viability, and obviously to actually run the race.
Thank you, Susan. Diane, before you leave, do you have any words of advice? Because I know you ran, and when I ran, I reached out to you and you gave me some really wonderful advice. What would you say now to candidates, especially women candidates in these local school board races and local races? What's your number one advice for them?
I think Kathryn really hit it. Get those 5, 6 people who will give you really good advice and line up your volunteers. Because one of the things that was so great was that we had an army of volunteers that we were able to marshal and collaborate, and some terrific guidance from some very knowledgeable people, including John Furman and Fred Register. And it was very powerful because I ran to win, but I also ran to educate. And so your message is really critical. I wanted people in our community to know how significant an institution Pasadena City College really is and what it means in the whole life cycle of education. And I think your passionate voice is what's going to convince people to support you, both with money and with votes. So gather your volunteers, gather your advisors, keep them involved, and let your passion come through.
Thank you for that, Diane. Thank you. We
Sure.
have Randy McKenzie who joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Randy McKenzie, and I am the super supporter and super volunteer of the candidate for Pasadena Unified School Board, Patrice McKenzie.
Great. Okay. I could see that Patrice brought her team. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Randy. So the other question that I received was, how do you juggle family, career, and running as a candidate? So who would like to take that question? Tina, you want to take that question?
Can you repeat that?
The question was, how do I juggle family, career, and running for office, and how would it impact my children?
You know, I love that you asked me this question, because I told my kids, two girls, that I was coming to this event, and I'm like, I guess they're probably going to ask how I'm going to juggle family and campaign. So, and my girls said, why do the women get that question and not the men? So, you find time. I'm, you know, if I'm not campaigning, I'm doing something else. I'm just sort of a busybody anyway. So you just always have dinner with the family. There's always that focus time that you're present. And yeah, you just sort of prioritize, you find the time. You just campaign smarter, not necessarily spending all your time walking, but you are strategic in when you walk, when you know people are home, or you call when, you know, for older folks, maybe they're up early. So you're spending your time smarter, but that doesn't mean your family isn't there. They always need to be a priority as well.
Octavia?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. I know that for me, my husband is thankfully somebody who will wash the sheets for the guest coming and make dinner. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. I also know I'm in a position where my children are older. So I'm truly sympathetic to people with much younger children. I wouldn't be here in that case. For sure. But having the support just in the immediate household and setting up the expectations for the kids, they know that I'm going to be on a lot of calls. And I think it's sort of exhausting for them, but I do try to find time just to sit down and, watch a show or chat about the school day, even 15 minutes. So it's been interesting so far.
Well, I would like to say I have two kids. One is 10 and the other one is 8. And so there was one day where I had to spend a whole day out in the streets looking for, some of you know the story, but looking for my dog. And then I forgot the carpool because I was carpool duty that day for ballet. Then I picked up my daughter 30 minutes late. I didn't do as well at my job as I would like to. In the middle of one of my meetings, the alarm for dinner started beeping. I burned dinner. I came to pick up my daughter and she's like, Mom, you're 30 minutes late. And I just started crying, pouring, like ugly crying. And then I stopped and I said, okay, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have ice cream, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna write a letter. And I've been writing cartas compasivas, like compassionate letters to myself when I get too overwhelmed. And that day I wrote one and I was like, it's okay to not do your best and then learn from it and then move on. Right? Because I also don't want her to learn that if you're not 100% every single day, then that's a failure. But and she, you can forgive yourself and move on and have a new day, and like, but I'm very cognizant of the impact in my children in terms of how the decisions that I make, but not only that, how I react to those impact what they see for themselves as possibilities. And so far, these compassionate letters have been my answer. It's like, it's okay. We can move forward. Remember who you are. Remember what you're doing. So when I feel very overwhelmed, I go back to my own kindness as a reference.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because certainly as a mom of two young kids, well, 12 and 7, who just turned 8, you know, I can really relate to that, and that resonates with me. And speaking of being a woman candidate, I know that Jeanette, when you ran 30 years ago, you had a mentor who told you, and I found this so interesting because it's still happening now, about our appearance. So as women candidates, so would you share with us what your mentor advised you, and let us know as women candidates what we need to pay attention to?
Well, I don't remember this conversation, but I did have a mentor. And you know, first of all, we're going back a long way in time. So we're just coming out of the 60s, where I had been a graduate student for, it seems like, forever. And as a poor graduate student, I had never upgraded my wardrobe. I hadn't had my hair cut. And so this mentor sat down and said to me, you know, if you're going to be a candidate, and I started to do it, but I didn't. There's some things you need to know. First of all, you're got to have your hair cut. You got to look right. You need to wear a jacket with a shirt with a collar under it. And this is the thing that I still remember, is you have to wear shoes that have toes in them. No sandals, no flip-flops, a shoe with a toe in it. And I tell you, I remember that 30 years later, I saw a woman running for governor of Kentucky, and she had toeless shoes. And I thought, that woman's not going to win because she doesn't have toes in her shoes. But I think what she was trying to get me to see, and now of course I do see it, if you want to know how to dress as a candidate, just look at Kathryn Barger or any other woman in office. And you can see there are certain things that are there, and that simply people will accept, and that will not accept. And that worked very well for me. Of course, I'm running East Pasadena, which is, very Republican, very conservative, and very white. And so those are the people who I was interacting with.
Volante, when you ran for state legislature, did you share with us your experience in terms of all of that, right? Being a woman of color, your appearance, your demeanor, tell us a little bit about that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, she's absolutely right. One of the things that annoyed me, quite frankly, was that there's different standards for women. No one on this call will be shocked to hear that, than there are for men, and different expectations. I can't tell you how frustrated I was when Hillary Clinton was running for president, and I would hear women in our own community says, why does she wear those pantsuits? Why does her hair look that stern? She needs to soften her face. I'm like, is anybody asking, Mr. Orange Guy to do all that? Or whatever the case may be. At that time, it was actually, former President Obama. But I just thought that the expectations were so different. And I came to find that same thing, is that there is and not women who are more, I think, more millennials and progressive, but there's a certain segment of our population that still has a very strong voice, that they think that even though they may feel they're progressive in some ways, they have not extended that to the candidates. And so, quite frankly, I was told, don't wear braids. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding. What year is this? You can't show up that way. And I remember my consultant saying, basically, you have to figure out what you're comfortable with and you carry that. And I appreciated that because you get a lot of mixed messages, but at the end of the day, you have to be authentic and you have to be true to yourself. And yeah, I mean, I'm not one that's gonna go out and no offense to anybody else, but I don't wear flip-flops anyway. I mean, so I just, not flat shoes like that. But my point is, you have to, I can just I look at, some of the ladies on this call, and I love the fact that they are so comfortable in their own skin, and it just, they just exude that confidence. And that's what people see, and they should stick to that, not allow someone to shape. It's almost like an actor where they say, oh, you need to have a nose job, or your eyes are too far apart, or, do this or do that. At the end of the day, what do you, like Kathryn Barger said, what are you bringing to the table to make my life better? And that's where you have to stay.
That's terrific. And certainly I know that I was at an event with Falante. Well, I was still nursing my 8-year-old, and at that time he was 3. So, but yes, that was, an experience. And going to Patrice, your name came up a lot, Patrice, that's because we know you're a candidate. In your race now, what is keeping you up at night in your race? If there's anything that's keeping you up at night.
Well, lots of things are keeping me up at night, but a couple of key things are, am I making enough time for fundraising calls? Not that I have no issue with the ask. I will ask anybody for any amount of money, so there's no anxiety there. But am I really focused and disciplined enough to make enough time for calls? That's where I'm sort of struggling. And also, am I making enough time for active, significant voter contact? Those are the two things that I'm sort of wanting to make sure that I'm doing the most of.
Well, one of the questions that came up for candidates is picking a consultant, in working with a consultant. And certainly I know Jackie has advised, many candidates. So any questions here around consultants and budgets and, with your race, how much you should be spending?
I think because I've been through it before and I've had a chance, both in my non-elected life, being staffers for different campaigns and working on campaigns, but then also being a candidate. One thing that I think is important in terms of picking your consultant is making sure that your consultant believes you can win, because there's a lot of political consultants out there that are just in it for the money, and they will gladly take your money and then not effectively manage your campaign or give you advice. So that would be number one. But also number two, I think make sure that it's a consultant that understands you and the reason why you're running and is aligned with your values, because campaigns can get ugly. And if you set your own parameters and standards as a candidate up front, your consultant will know, I don't want to campaign in a negative way. I'm going to focus on my strengths and not on your opponent. I mean, of course, know your opponent and know who you're running against, but your job is not to concentrate on your opponent per se. It's to ensure that the voters know who you are and why you're running and why they should vote for you. And so I would just say, especially as if you're running for a local race, don't just go with the first big name consultant that someone gives you. Big name consultants have been in the business for a long time. They certainly know what they're doing, but that doesn't mean they're going to be as dedicated to you as, say, a consultant that has more time to handhold and be with you on a day-to-day basis. And act more in the role as a consultant / campaign manager versus just consultant that you only speak to once every 2 months or whatever. So
Tina and then Susan. Okay, is Tina frozen? Okay. All right, Susan, go.
So a couple things. And first, sort of in response to Patrice, I mean, I think unfortunately the answer is you cannot do too much, right? So if you think you're doing enough, then maybe you're not doing, you know, just as much as you possibly can in both fundraising calls and especially constituent contacts. And now, you know, when I ran more than 20 years ago, I had to run district wide for, and it was impossible, you know, it just was not possible to walk the district. And so we relied very heavily on a mail campaign. Now with districts, you really can walk the district, and you just have to do it. So, and then the other is I have a question actually for Jackie. I mean, I was fortunate. My husband has been treasurer for everybody, you know, from God to whomever, and so he was my built-in treasurer. And the best man at our wedding was my political consultant, and he has, you know, has been doing it forever here. So my question is, how does somebody find a political consultant and a treasurer for that matter anymore? There are just not that many of them who really know Pasadena. And I agree with Jackie. It's important to know to work with someone who knows the community, or La Cañada, or where, you know, wherever you happen to be running. There are not that many to choose from. So how do you find these folks?
Well, I think right now, women, especially since post Hillary Clinton running for president, there's a lot of organizations that are supporting female candidates from local to federal races right now. And so they have compiled lists of vetted consultants and candidates that you can reach out to. You know, their contact information is readily available on websites. So you just start making those calls and, you know, researching them, asking around town, seeing who has ran past campaigns for the exact seat that you're running for, and just word of mouth, and making sure that you should be researching your consultants and your campaign staffers, and frankly, even volunteers, as much as, or if not more than, the race that you're seeking to run for, because that's the person that you're paying your hard-earned money that you're fundraising for to. That's the person that you're going to be calling at midnight when you get frustrated, or if somebody says something to you. And so you want to make sure that you have a really good relationship with that person. And again, that they believe you can win.
I do think that having a consultant is also a part of your campaign strategy too, who your consultant is. I know that when I first ran in 2018, because I was fairly, even though I've been in Pasadena for 10 years, I was still considered a newcomer to Pasadena. So I picked a consultant that everybody knew, who I believe was in Susan and John's wedding, right? And so part of it was a strategy to have a consultant that worked on, you know, Anthony Portantino's campaign or Carol Lou's campaign, because then they know that you are a serious candidate by picking a serious consultant. So part of that is part of your campaign strategy, and you know, that the consultant sets a tone for how you're going to run your campaign. Now, Octavia, I know that you had a question. And
all right, yes. I do have a timing question, and that is in regards to when the ballots are being mailed out. And it's my understanding, do we know ballots are coming out on October 10th? Is that correct? And trying to time, obviously I can talk to consultants and talk to my closest advisors, but I'm kind of curious what others are thinking about the sort of the calendar backwards, and when to really start hitting the pavement. I absolutely intend to go door to door to a ton of people. I think it's an effective campaign strategy. And also it'll help with timing mailers and advertisements and what have you. But ballots are going out October 10th. Is that correct? Does anybody else have a sort of an idea of sort of how they're managing their calendar?
Do it now.
I have ideas. Yeah.
Now.
Well,
and
right.
I say that because of all the things that you have resource wise, you're never going to get any more time. So time is the one commodity that you can't control. So what you can do to maximize it right now is the best thing that you can do. And that's talk to voters early and often as much as you can. You can always find more people. You can always raise more money, but you're never going to get any more time.
Gotcha.
I started walking in May. I've been walking.
See, I'm late to the party.
For, May for your November election.
I started walking in May.
Got it.
Caroline, your hand has been up.
Yeah, mine is more like, I didn't use a consultant. So
well, you kind of had a friend who is a pretty heavy hitter in consulting world, right?
Yeah, but didn't really use him very much. Like, my treasurer is not my whole team was no one that's ever been on a campaign before. So I'm listening to this and it's a little like, oh, how does that? I mean, if I would have had to hire someone, I would have had to spend more than $30,000. My $30,000 didn't even include a consultant. I was literally people who were my friends and piece it together. A treasurer who's never been a political treasurer ever and said, all right, I'll do it. And we were able to cobble it together.
One of the things that I always tell my clients is, yes, in theory, you can do everything on your campaign by yourself, as long as you're willing to read all the FPPC rules and know all the rules for the seat that you're running for. However, like Patrice just said, every campaign is time, money, and resources. And so you can spend your time doing all those things, or you can pay somebody to do at least a portion of it. Or in my opinion, I think treasury is really important. So I encourage people to at minimum get a treasurer. But like the very first time I ran, I was able to run and be successful, I think, because I had previously worked on campaigns. I knew what I was getting into. I had a ton of friends that were in labor and had run campaigns. So they all volunteered with me for free. I printed stuff out at my mom's home. Like, I really did everything on a very thin budget. But I probably would not have done that had I not previously worked on campaigns and knew what I was doing, or at least partially knew what I was doing. So I don't encourage it now, but yes, in theory, if you don't have money to start with, and the winner does not always end up being the person with the most money, however, you do know how to effectively use the money that you have.
Tina, welcome back. Did you have some comments? Your hand was up before you.
Oh, thanks.
And then to Jeanette, and then Jeanette.
Well, I wanted to say, Jackie was my campaign manager and strategist. And she was actually my second, I don't know if you call it manager or consultant, both. But I didn't like my first consultant, and it just wasn't a fit. And I really thank Jackie for, I think you have to fit with the person that you're hiring. They have to fit you. And I was really appreciative that Jackie, I remember thinking, I hope she's not going to boss me around, like I hope she allows me to have my own way of campaigning. And I felt that, she did support me that way. So, and it really helps when I have talked to a lot of like veteran strategists, and they always say, what's your budget? And it's always like, you're not raising enough. So it's great to have folks like Jackie that know the campaigning and is not going to just simply make money off of you. So I think there is a way, to still get the support. If you're not raising money for mailers, well, you got to compensate with more volunteers. So it all balances out.
That's really good feedback. Jeanette, and then Octavia.
Yeah, I just wanted to underline one of the things that Jackie said. She said she had worked on other campaigns. So she had a real sense of what a campaign is. And so I think anyone who thinks they might be interested in running for office, the first thing they should do is volunteer on someone else's campaign. And then you get a really good sense of what it takes, how much time it takes, how much money has to be run, what the issues are, and you decide whether or not you really want to do that. And so I would just underline that for anyone who's thinking about running, and you can run, it doesn't have to even be a political campaign. It could be like what Planned Parenthood is doing now. It could be an issues campaign. it's kind of the same. You get the sense of the calling and the walking and so forth. So I want to thank Jackie for just mentioning that. I think she mentioned it in there. She worked on the others campaign, which I think is really critical thing to do.
Sandra, Octavia, you had a question?
Oh, right. I actually was curious. Somebody mentioned resources. I'm feeling good about sort of where I am, but I am curious, what are those specific, how does one find consultants? Are you, political consultants, Google search, Los Angeles, Pasadena, who serve women? How does one more specifically find the support?
Well, I would say for finding niche political consultants and managers, it's really more word of mouth. But at least as a starting point, some of the groups are National Women's Political Caucus. There are locally based caucuses throughout the state, and you can check for those on the website. There's also groups like Emerge California, which is part of a larger national umbrella. Close the Gap California, which is working with a lot of state candidates on recruitment and recruiting candidates to run for state office. And they really try to pull from candidates that are existing already in local office so that they have that experience to reference when they get to the state level. And then also a lot of the labor unions have also started candidate training programs because they want to see their members be active and engaged in their local communities and statewide as well. And I think that's why you see a lot of state assembly and Senate members who, were previously staffs at local labor unions and other organizations like that. So yeah, those are some starting points that I would refer you to. And all of them have websites.
That's excellent. Thank you.
I do think that at a certain point, once you find them, it may be a little too late because your race is in November, because trainings have different times.
Absolutely.
And I remember that when I ran, it was, okay, well, let's talk to, Emerge, let's talk to, Emily's List, and, it is a whole bunch of, and then you're just like, okay, well, their timing and my timing is not really aligned. And when it comes to local races, like school board races, unless you're in LAUSD or some big, market, they don't play in those races. So then it's kind of like Caroline's strategy, where she's getting, the circle of love, right?
Yep.
Who's your family, who are your friends? I'm just
Yep.
going to pony up that. And so I do think that there's a bit of a hybrid of where you are in your timing. And now if you're thinking of running for state office, that opens up to different type of resources, because you got to fundraise more, your endorsements got to be more, they want to know what your ground campaign is. And so that's a whole different level. But I do think that at the local level, that's been tough in getting that type of institutionalized, support. Though there are resources, online. But that's one of the reasons, and we're going to wrap this up at 8, is that we did this roundtable because there's nothing like knowing who your peers are that are running and who can be your support network. So part of this is to know each other, who's out there. And so now, Octavia, you can call Patrice and say, I'm feeling the pain, and to have that support for each other, not just as candidates, but certainly, from those of us who have ran. Now we have 1 minute, and I'm going to ask Sue, because she says she's thinking about running. So in your thought process about running, what questions would you like to be answered for you to make that decision to run?
I like to know what kind of supports, or what are some organizations out there who will support women of color in terms of running for city council, or even school board. And is there any fundings like other than like self fundings? Other than me after reaching out to my friends to raise fund, is there any other source of fundings that's available from different organizations?
Can I say something really quick? If Sue ever decides to run, she has to do nothing. She will win doing nothing.
That's not true.
It is very true, and she knows it too. But in
Totally.
any case,
Okay.
someone else can
Well,
answer,
so
but
there-
Sue will not have to do anything, and she will win in La Cañada.
So she does need a few grants.
A few.
But
So
yeah,
I'll just
covered.
say,
Go ahead, Jackie.
oh, I was just going to say very quickly, it's important that before you jumpstart getting out in front of organizations and current elected officials asking for endorsements, all of them ask the same thing, which is who you are, why you're running, how much is your fundraising goal, how close are you to it, and how much money have you raised. And you really do have to start with your own network of personal acquaintances, friends, and family. And you would be surprised how far you get on that. And you do have to explicitly make the ask and, use your early time to do that. Because even if you want to hire a professional fundraiser, you're essentially paying them to hand over your personal information to them so that they can make calls on your behalf. And that's a waste of money, in my opinion. So you just need to get out your email addresses, Rolodex, everybody you've ever talked to, dated, or whatever in life, and just start calling them and asking. Because everybody that you try to get in front of for an endorsement is going to ask you those questions.
That is a true and accurate statement. I have been calling through my list. I still probably have another 100, 120 calls to make, but I'm knocking on the door $20,000 just out of my network personally, without having gotten a dime from any organization yet. And yes, I did call, those folks in my past. I've called everybody, people that you like, that you don't like. You call everybody.
Your ex-boyfriend. We call her ex-boyfriend.
They gave me money too, because I called and asked.
Yes, you go to your 30th, reunion and say, "I haven't seen you in 30 years, but I'm running for office. Can you give me?"
And they have given me money, so you have to ask. If you don't ask, they will not give you money. But
and it doesn't have to be $1,000. $20, $50, $100 adds up.
Jennifer.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to chime in that I just helped a friend who was running for city council in the last cycle, and he won his race, yay. But I didn't actually do that much fundraising for him. What I did was friend raising within the district and to help him connect with voters. And sometimes that led to money, and sometimes that just led to more votes and more support and lawn signs and those kinds of things. So it's not just about the money, I guess, is what I just would want to put forward, is that oftentimes people who can't necessarily write you a check can host a coffee for you and have 30 neighbors over in their backyard. And that's really effective and way more powerful than somebody getting something in the mail that they're going to pitch right into the trash anyway. So just to say that sometimes those people connecting people is just as powerful.
One of the and the research and interviews have shown that one of the biggest obstacles for women candidates is raising money. That there is that gap, right? Falante, you know how much money you had to raise for the state raise, and so it's a real deal. I think when you go up to the various levels of elections. But certainly, I think at local levels, it's doable. The fundraising is important, relationships, those are important, and certainly endorsements. I think there's a bit of a myth around, how many endorsements you need to get to win that race. But ultimately, I think it comes down to, as we've heard tonight, it really comes about who you are, what you're about. And what I found helpful in my race is telling people, what's my path to victory? How am I going to win this race? I mean, people want to know that you are going to win, right? They want to back, someone who's going to win. And so I think it's important that as we continue on this this journey together, that we continue to support each other and really build this network, because really it is about building friendships and networks of support to ensure that there are more women, local women in office. So I know we're a little bit past 8 o'clock. How is everybody on time? I can wrap this up, but if there's some more questions, we can maybe continue on for another 5 minutes. Okay. Well, great. We have everybody's contact info, and we can probably share it with each other. I know that you registered for it, so we can, if you don't mind, we can send out the contact information. So, well, thank you all very, very much for joining us this evening. And I hope this is the beginning and of some great campaigns. And I hope that come November 3rd, that we will, November 8th. I know I don't have an election, so I don't even pay attention to the dates, but we do have a PCC bond on there, Measure PCC.
November 8th.
Yeah, so I hope that November 8th, we will call some of you the honorable as we go into November and the next cycle. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us and supporting NWPC-GPA. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did a great job.
so much.
Good night.
Good
Thank you.
night.